keep them in your home or love to see them in theirs. These are the creatures that bring us all together.
Reptiles. We're going to be delving into the experiences of reptile lovers from around the block and around the world. This is the Reptile Talk Podcast. What's up, everybody? This is Jeremy Turgeon from Brassman Reptiles.
And I'm Rob, and I'm keeping it real.
Episode 34. It's just me and Rob.
In the house.
That's it. And now we're leaving. No.
Goodbye.
So we're going to be talking about social media and the impact it's had on the industry, and I guess kind of the evolution of social media and its involvement in the industry.
Oh my goodness, yes.
It's
been a ride.
Do we go back to yourspace.com?
I had a MySpace.com.
Me too, dude.
When you could only have 8 pictures on it.
Yes. Yes.
Or 7 pictures,
That's
whatever
right.
it was. I don't know. But it's crazy because honestly, even then, I was networking with people on about reptiles.
Mm-hmm.
At the very beginning.
At the inception of it all. Yeah, it's really interesting how far social media has come, just kind of in general.
Mm-hmm.
But man, it certainly is like dictating a lot of trends in the industry these days,
for sure.
which is quite interesting. Before it was like the dumping ground of photos and little video clips and like, look at these cool things that I created this year. Now it's like, this is the coolest thing. Oh my God, I'm getting text messages everywhere right now. And even though I shut off my iPad, the volume's still going. I don't know what's happening. Social media! It's actually perfect. Social media is ruining the world one beep at a time.
This is very meta.
Oh boy. So periodically you will hear a beep. These beeps are brought to you by social media.
It's going to stress some people out.
Oh boy. So anywho, just thinking about the involvement of social media. You know, it's a pre-social media, obviously. They were just websites and then forums.
And magazines. Reptiles magazine and Vivarium magazine.
Yeah. And when social media kind of came on, as I just said, it kind of became like kind of the dumping ground of photos and whatever, like look at all these cool things that I've produced, to now, obviously, social media runs quite a bit of the world and a lot of the trends in the world. Yeah, which can be quite terrifying. And it still has kind of that element of like, look at all these really cool things that I produced. Mm-hmm. But it's also, you know, people are on their phones constantly. So they see a photo of something that they think is really cool. They share it. If other people think it's cool, you know, then it goes viral and it becomes a massive trend. We've seen it happen with like any kind of iridescent snakes. So like Motley Golden Child Retics, Boelen's pythons, sunbeam snakes. You know, and then there's like this burst of attention that the species get, which I think is kind of cool, especially on a lesser known species like a sunbeam snake. But then, you know, then there's like social media. But then there is stuff like dragon snakes that picked up a lot of really insane popularity kind of out of nowhere, but they're not an easy snake to maintain.
I don't like that those are popular.
Mm-hmm. So it just kind of like, it kind of comes and goes. And, you know, of course, there isn't just one social media platform. There's a bunch of social media platforms. And the foundation of it all is pretty much like Facebook. That's generally the most used social media platform. Social media. But, you know, now we've got Instagram and Twitter and TikTok and there's
blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, there's so many different kinds. And all these different various algorithms and social media. I'm just going to do that every time something goes off. Because I literally Rob watched me turn the volume off on my iPad. And it's still going. I don't understand it. But while we are live recording pre-recorded episodes of this podcast, now I'm aggressively clicking the volume.
ASMR.
Yeah, there you go. This is going to be a great episode, guys. We're 5 minutes in and we're fucking crushing it.
Oh boy. So I think back like when like Reptiles magazine did have a lot of influence on what kind of was popular back in the day, and when they would put out articles on certain species, people would definitely kind of gravitate towards that, and you would see different shifts and interests as not the episodes, as the issues of Reptiles magazine would come out, because they had like breeder spotlight section where they would highlight a cool moor for something new that just recently got bred, or they would have the centerfold where they would have pictures. You could make a poster and put it on your wall of ball python morphs or whatever happened to be the big article for that particular issue. And then you had the classifieds in the back where you could see a variety of different species that people had for sale and that sort of stuff. But right as Reptiles magazine and a lot of stuff was kind of shifting more to online and on the internet, there was chat rooms. People would definitely come out for like kingsnake.com on Friday and Saturday nights. Used to have a reptile chat, and that was like where I got to meet a lot of people and to kind of talk to people. I was young still. I was like 13 or 14 years old, but I didn't tell anyone that. I was just like, I'm going to join this internet chat room with a bunch of strangers on the internet and talk to them about reptiles. And my parents will be okay with it. But, but like big thing was forums, but then there was also chat rooms. So kingsnake.com had a consistent chat that people would join Fridays and Saturday nights where people would often talk about reptiles. It was open all the time, but when people kind of scheduled time to hang out and chat reptiles was usually on Friday or Saturday nights. And then there was also ReptiChat. I don't know if you ever remember that. That was like a really old one. I was only on there briefly. It wasn't as popular. I actually got kicked off of their server once, or out of the room they banned me for like a week or something.
Oof.
Because I posted a picture of me handling one of my tarantulas, and they're like, "You're encouraging unsafe behavior," and I was like, I didn't tell anyone to handle them, and they're not anything that can kill you, and I'm very safe. Like, I've had tarantulas my whole life. Like, I don't see the big deal about it.
Right.
They
were no. Listen, this is safe.
Yeah, they were not having it, so I got banned from that at one point.
Oof.
That's aside the point. But the transition from reading articles on Reptiles magazine or getting books where people had published and had editors review the information to now where social media, Facebook groups and Instagram pages and stuff like that is where a lot of people are getting their information. And it's like, that's not reviewed by anyone. I can make up an opinion right now, post it on buy a domain for a website, post it on that website, theoretically hire someone to make the website look professional. And then all of a sudden now it's the new care sheet, and people don't really do their due diligence, as one would say, to vet what kind of information they're getting. Because I actually had someone call Nerd recently, and they were asking about where I get my information for the things that I work with. And the main thing I was saying was like, I try to find somebody who's doing it. If it's something that other people are working with, I try to talk to them because they already know.
Right.
They have tried the various ways that you can fail, and I'm going to learn from their failures so I don't make those mistakes. And that is one of the most valuable things that you can do as a responsible keeper, is to talk to other keepers in the venue that you're interested in and try and gather that information. And I'm not just saying just talk to one person or two people. Like, try to talk to as many people as you can who are working with the thing that you're interested in, and take bits and pieces of the information that you've gathered from those various sources and then see what works best for you. Because the way I keep a blood or short-tailed python in New Hampshire is going to be very different than the way that someone keeps a blood or short-tailed python in southern Arizona. Just the air humidity is different. Everything is different in one way or another. So the way that I keep things with my collection might be completely different than someone keeps it in another part of the United States or around the world. So you have to take all of that sort of stuff into consideration. And that's where the local reptile or herp societies can be super important, because if you find someone locally to you who works with a lot of the same species that you're interested in, you can kind of bounce ideas off them and see how they keep things, because if they live in a similar area as you or part of the country, they might have a similar style of keeping, or things that you might be able to tweak your own keeping and make it better. So with social media, though, not everyone, but a lot of people are experts, or they claim to be experts. And there's a lot of care sheet kings and queens out there who, I've read the care sheet and I know how to take care of it. And, you can't tell them otherwise.
Right.
I've had people who are like, you don't know how to keep short-tailed pythons. And I'm like, I've bred all the species. All of them. I've raised all of them and bred them before. I've got quite a few of them. And they're like, no, you don't know. I read the care sheet. It said to feed them once a week. And if you feed them less than that, you're abusing your animal. And I'm like, oh, well, they're heavy-bodied animals. They don't really need to eat every single week. But the care sheet. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to fight with you. And a lot of those Facebook groups are just people that have read the care sheet, patting each other on the back and telling each other how great a job they're doing. And they're ultimately doing a disservice to the animals, because when your care is not ideal, the animals will tell you. You'll be able to tell. If you've got any sort of a attunement to your collection, or to your animals, or to your pets, or to your reptiles, you'll know that there's something that's off. And that's one of the things that, like, people who are newer to the hobby kind of get thrown off by, because they just don't have that experience yet. So if their snake doesn't eat for a week and they've been feeding it on a weekly schedule, now the world is falling at their feet. And that can be very disturbing for people who have not experienced it yet. And then there's people like me, and I've got a ball python that's 17. I've had him for 17 years. He's 18 years old, roughly. And he went 11 and a half months without eating before. Yeah. And when I tell people that, they're like, what? Because their snake hasn't eaten for 2 weeks. And I'm like, it's okay. Yeah, like, make sure it's hydrated. Make sure that your care is on point. But they can go a long time without eating. And, I offered him food every 3 weeks, and he was just not interested in eating. For the first, 5 months, I was like, this is fine. He'll get over it. And then once summertime started rolling around again, I was like, okay, you should start eating now. Yeah, he didn't lose any weight or anything, so I brought him to a vet. I did the right thing. I brought him to a vet. I had them check everything. They did a stool sample. They did swabs in his mouth. They checked it. Everything is perfect with this snake. And they're like, he'll eat when he's ready. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess he'll eat when he's ready. And then literally one day he was just like, oh, food. Yeah, I guess I want to eat again. And then he just started eating again. Oof. So yeah, it's these animals are much more durable than people give them credit for.
That's very true. Yeah.
And if you were to read the care sheets, it's like, oh, you skipped 2 feedings. People are going to lose their mind, because the framework for keeping a pet is a lot around cats, dogs, and maybe fish, where you're feeding them on a very consistent basis. Right. And if your cat stops eating for 2 days or 3 days, there's something wrong, and it's probably not good. But your snake, if it doesn't eat during the wintertime, they just do that sometimes.
Yes, it'd be like that.
It'd be like that sometimes,
Yeah, no, it's very true. There's also that, we talked about this before, the people who exist on the Facebook groups, and they're like, well, if it's not posted in this group, then it's not real.
It doesn't exist.
It can't be real. And, that's the ultimate farce.
Yes.
It is just like, man, people were doing this long before social media. They'll continue to do it long after.
And there's a lot of people who work with stuff who don't want to be bothered by things. Like white-lip pythons are one of the ones that I think of, because white-lip pythons have gotten hugely popular over the last 8 years or so. Mm-hmm. They were never, people thought they were kind of pretty, but they didn't have the draw that they've got now, with a couple viral videos of an iridescent snake in the sun, and now everyone wants white-lip pythons. And if you were to breed white-lip pythons, you're going to have 500 emails in your inbox of people trying to buy them, and a lot of people just don't want to deal with that. I personally know 2 or 3 people who produce white-lip pythons in the U.S., but they don't post when they reproduce them because they don't have to. They sell them locally to people who are interested in buying them, and they never talk about it because they really don't care about social media. And if you were to maybe say that to some people, they're gonna go, "Well, they're just passing off wild caught thing," and I'm like, "Well, I've seen their snakes. I've seen the babies the week after they hatched out. Like, I've seen the pictures of the egg teeth on them. Like, what are you gonna tell this person who's breeding them? No, because they didn't post it in your Facebook group that it didn't happen. Come on, seriously."
Yeah, it's really bizarre that we live in a world that is basically like, if it's not on social media, it's not real.
It doesn't exist. Yeah.
You know, and that's always kind of weirded me out, because like reality is what's happening right now. It's literally like the tangible stuff right in front of you.
Yeah.
You know, and when you get so consumed by a phone screen or an iPad or a computer, it just, man, you're missing something.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, like, I've certainly seen it, you know, when I was teaching, you know, like the kids just glued to their phone in the middle of class, and you're like, dude, just, you know, put your phone away for an hour. It's not gonna kill you, I promise. But we're so addicted to it sometimes, and it's pretty crazy. But I think one of the biggest avenues that social media does afford us is connecting with those people that are working with the same species we're interested in, but also the people who have pioneered certain projects. You know, so I mean, think about Keith McPeak, or you know, Tom Crutchfield, or Ron St. Pierre, Kathy Love. All these people are on social media. They have at least a Facebook.
Yep.
You know, and it's really easy to send them a message, and they might not respond to it right away, but you know, imagine before social media being like, I need to find Kathy Love.
I gotta go to Georgia and meet this person.
Yeah, exactly. You know, like, oh, I hope they're going to be at this next reptile show. You know what I mean? How long do I have to drive before I can meet this person?
Yeah.
You know, or talk to them on the phone, and just hope that they're in that day. You know, so you know, we have a lot of afforded benefits to that, and unfortunately, it goes a lot of times undiscovered, really, because I mean, unless you know who Tom Crutchfield is, you know, like you've done any sort of research on like albino iguanas or any of the multitude of things that Tom has done, you're not necessarily going to be like, oh yeah, he's the guy.
Yeah.
You know, same thing with like Kathy Love, you know, unless you're
not
looking
into
at
corn snakes.
right, you know, unless you're into corn snakes or whatever, you know, or Ron Tremper. If you're not into leopard geckos, you don't know who Ron is. You know, all these different things. You know, you just won't know about him, and that kind of boggles my mind. You know, I just from a standpoint of like, we don't necessarily appreciate the history of herpetoculture in today's world, because we have this instant gratification on our phone or on the computer or whatever. Just Google whatever it is we're interested in, and boom, there's a picture of it, there's a care sheet, there's a whatever.
Yeah.
You know, but real world experience will always trump the book experience, especially when you're dealing with wild animals or exotic animals. In that context of just like, you know, you can read all the care sheets in the world about a species, or, you know, maybe the different quirks of a species, but until you own that species and you start like trying to work with it and you figure out those quirks, you're not going to necessarily get the full picture.
Yeah.
You'll get a good idea, but you know, there's a big difference between like, oh, I've read everything about blood pythons, so I know everything about blood pythons. Then you get a big blood python in your hand.
And it throws your whole body.
Yeah, and you're just like, oh, this wasn't in the care sheet.
That's what they meant by thrashing. Okay.
Yeah, I understand it now. You know, so it's just like to be able to realize that, you know, there's predecessors, and that those predecessors are in many instances still alive and quite easy to get a hold of for the most part. Like we kind of go without talking about that in most instances. You know, I think about, you know, just being at Barczyk's place the other week and talking about like Mark Bell and a whole bunch of those guys that like now, you know, are still like in it and are like the big guys, but they like pioneered a lot of stuff along the way. And if you don't know,
if you weren't paying attention back when they were doing it, it's like,
then you don't even know it exists. You know.
I feel like the way that our society is that when you have got the information right there and accessible, it no longer requires that drive to get it. I mean, you just Google how do I take care of a blood python, and you'll find a bunch of different sites that can take you to, this is how you keep a blood python.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't give credit or give weight to the people like Tracy Barker and
Mm-hmm.
like Kevin, the people who are like doing it when people were like, why the hell would you want to keep a blood python? Those things, they piss all over you. They bite the hell out. They like the swamp snakes. They're gross. And it's just like, it doesn't give credit to those people who like took the time to understand the animals themselves and got that information and was bouncing it off other people to see if that was what worked with them,
Mm-hmm.
and then tweaked it and worked with it and really dialed it in to get it to that point. But that's one of the things that I like about the podcasts, like our podcast, like NPR and some of the other podcasts, is talking to these people who have kind of pioneered things, or people who are working with things, and really making them more human, making them more, not accessible, but you can kind of get a feel for what that person's like. Because if you hear about, a story about Trace Harden, you're like, oh, I heard that he does bugs and stuff, and that's cool. I like bugs too. Blah, blah, blah. But if you get to listen to him talk about stuff for a little bit, you're like, okay, so he's got a good sense of humor. He's a friendly guy. This, that, and the other thing. It makes it more real than just like, oh, I saw Trace's name on something on the internet, and it's like, oh, okay, cool, that's gone forever. But you get a chance to talk to him or listen to him talk, and it's like, oh, that person. It makes it more concrete, more real, than just reading it on a website someplace, which is somehow how some people learn. Some people can just like read things and retain it immediately, and just they've got it. As soon as they see it a couple times, it's like, boom, it's right in their head. But then for a lot of people, just getting to talk or listen to people talk about a certain subject is what really will solidify it in their mind. And I feel like I kind of work on both of those kind of realms. I definitely retain stuff better when I'm talking to people about it, but if it's important stuff, I can read it too. But
yeah,
it's so wild to see the amount of people who just like throw out information online. Because if you go into any reptile group and you post a question about something, you'll probably get like 10 to 30 different people answering your question, and some of them are answering it completely different than the other people, and it's like, what have any of you done? Where are you all getting your information from? Because this is like Wikipedia. Everyone's just editing everything, and they're like, this is the information now, and you can't change my mind.
Right, exactly.
And it's just not the case. It's so not the case. I was listening to a live stream with Ryan McVeigh from Zilla, and he was talking about bearded dragons and how people keep bearded dragons, and how a lot of the bearded dragons in the U.S. hobby are obese and fat. And it's like, I was like, oh my God, he's preaching right to me right now. I feel it. Keep talking. But he's talking about how when the people were trying to dial in bearded dragons and get the best ways to keep them healthy and keep them alive and stuff, they were, saying that they would often get a big size, and then they would often die really quickly, which was like a big issue. And they were just like feeding them heavy on the insects, heavy on the insects. That's the only thing that they would feed them. And so he's talking about, some vets are going, well, they're omnivorous a little bit. So they kind of were like, well, if you just feed them more veggies, more empty calories, basically, if you feed them those so you can feed your need to want to feed something, it's healthier for them. And that's what they do in the wild. And it's like, if you look at a lot of the places where bearded dragons are found, it's like desolate. It's like, they're not going like, oh, I'm big enough to eat this dried dead stick that's out here. It's like they're eating what they can. And in the U.S. hobby, it's like, well, I need to feed it 6 times a day. I need to make sure that it's eating. I need to track every single one of its bowel movements. And it's like, it doesn't have a calendar. It doesn't know the last time it took poop. It's like when it needs to poop, it'll poop. And as long as your care parameters are correct, the thing's going to be happy. Like if you go into a bearded dragon group today and post a picture of a cage with sand in it,
Oh my god.
you will get annihilated. Annihilated. People will lose their mind. They'll post your personal address. They'll post pictures of your parents. They'll be like,
Oh my
burn
God.
this person's house down. They're abusing their dragon. And it's like, you do know where they come from, right?
Yeah.
Right? They're not living on paper towel and kitchen tile in Australia. Like,
Jeez.
for real though. Like,
No, they're living on cage carpet.
cage carpet. My bad.
Yeah.
My bad.
Come on, Rob.
I haven't seen the pictures recently. The last one I saw were on rocky sand.
Dude. No, man. It's all about that cage carpet.
But like, if you post that in that group, people will lose their mind. And it's like, well, if your care parameters are correct and the animal is able to drink and stay hydrated and it's able to eat the appropriate food items and, you know, you're not power feeding the hell out of it, having some sand in the cage, the bottom of the cage, is not the end of the world. I promise. True. I promise.
That is true. Yeah.
Done it for a lot of years. A lot of years.
Yeah.
But
many.
If you had been in one of those groups, like I've literally had customers where they ball out on their bearded dragon and they get them like the nicest setup, full spectrum lighting. They get all the best basking lights. They've got, you know, hammocks in there. They got climbing branches. They've got nice water dishes. They take like immaculate care of their animals.
Yeah.
And, you know, since I've spoken to them, I'm like, you know, don't go crazy with the feeding. You're going to make them fat. They're not supposed to be a round animal. They're not supposed to be a balloon. And they take that and they really just, they do their own research and they have got this animal that is just like immaculate. And then I've had customers that have done all that stuff and they post a picture of their setup because they're just like, I love my bearded dragon. I just want to share it with other people who love their bearded dragons. And they'll post it in a bearded dragon group and people will just shred them. Any little thing that they can think about to make a big hubbub and to really flame somebody on. That's the first thing that they go for. And, you know, this person, if you took a look at their bearded dragon, like they took it out of the enclosure and you just looked at it, this is like the perfect body weight bearded dragon. The thing is grown immaculately. It's got great body structure, perfect color. It's not stressed out at all. But I've literally had customers call like crying on the phone because they were like, I need to get a whole new setup. My bearded dragon, the people in the bearded dragon group said that I'm abusing it. I can't believe that I'm using sand. I should never have done that, blah, 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 this, that, and the other thing. And I'm like, what is your animal like? And they're like, well, he looks great. And he's very happy with my family and he comes out and spends time with my kids. And you know, I mean, it looks good to me. And I'm like, send me a picture. And you look at this animal and it's like literally perfect. It's mint. But if you had been in that Facebook group, you would have been like, oh, these people just roasted this person. And there's no room for discussion with those people. And it really, really, really does a disservice to the animals themselves. Because, you know, I don't know. I harp on bearded dragon people a lot because they get irrationally upset about if your cage doesn't look like their cage and it doesn't have 6 stuffy animals in there and tile, it's like and it's like there's no room for discussion with them because if you're not doing that, you're an animal abuser, and it's just so rough to see people do that, and it's so exclusionary to the different ways that people can set up their enclosures and to set up their environments and all that sort of stuff. And social media definitely has that dark side where people just feel like, oh, it's just another name on a page. I'm going to roast the crap out of this person and make them feel like shit. And it's so separate from if you were going to your friend's house or going to someone who you met's house and you're like, oh, they've got a pet bearded dragon here. You know, you wouldn't just go, you're going to kill your freaking animal, blah, blah, blah. Especially if you looked at it and it's like a super healthy animal. You're like, what's going on here? When it's just a name on the internet, people feel like they can just write whatever they want. They hit send and then it's gone. It's like, that's it.
Yep.
They don't care. Maybe they feel like they care too much, but it's definitely made social media a breeding ground for a lot of that hatred. And it's so weird because social media is meant to kind of bring people together, to share ideas, to share passion, to share interest. And when people go and do that and really just like push apart and separate, it makes you not want to be a part of it. And like I took a huge step back from Facebook groups for a really long time because I was just so over it. Like, I know my snakes are healthy. I know that I've raised and bred them. I know that what I'm doing is what I should be doing. But, you know, you talk to some people and they're like, if you don't have a bioactive enclosure, you're an animal. If you keep in a rack, oh, don't even talk to me. And it's like, you know, it doesn't work for everything, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Or, I mean, I don't know. It just doesn't work for everything, is my opinion.
Yeah. No, it's very true. You know, social media definitely allows for some of those breeding grounds of negativity.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it also, not to continue to harp on the downsides of social media, but it very often gives people a platform that don't necessarily deserve it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think about, you know, Instagram, which is probably second most used to Facebook.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's some people that have millions of followers and don't necessarily
spreading bad information.
Yeah, they just don't necessarily deserve it,
Yeah.
you know, and, you know, when you start understanding the algorithms and like you learn kind of like how everything is figured out, you're just kind of like, huh, okay, well, that's weird. You know, like literally there's aspects of, like think about like YouTube.
Yeah.
Right. When we did the thumbnail
YouTube.
for the bite video for Gianni, as soon as Donnie edited it and threw the edited photo of John being in there giving the thumbs up, you remember that? The video was taken down.
Yeah.
Like immediately because their software that just kind of acts like a
screening.
Just scanning software just to make sure like it doesn't violate any terms of service was like, oh, there's a kid in that thumbnail. We got to flag that video because we don't know what's going on with that video.
A child, yeah.
Yeah, and so we had to change the thumbnail back, and then it went right back up, no problem. But like we've seen the same thing, like if there's blood in a thumbnail, like when we're cutting eggs, you know, if there's blood in that thumbnail, it'll get demonetized or taken down or whatever. You know, and like I'll never forget when like Barchek told me, you know, he's like, if you post a photo of a snake on Instagram, you don't have to hashtag snake. The software already picks up that it's a snake. You know, you can be specific, you know,
but
like this
snake,
is but it'll already start to put it in
with
a category of other snake photos. And that's just you posting it. You don't have to do anything else. That to me is ridiculous and terrifying at the same time. But, you know, so just thinking about like that's just kind of barely scratching the surface of what happens behind the scenes on social media and how those algorithms are kind of generated. So, you know, then you start looking at the people who have these massive followings that, again, don't necessarily deserve it. You know, you tend to see a lot of the same things. Like it's generally very high quality photo or video, something that is eye-catching or appealing just off of the thumbnail or the preview or the photo itself. And
it's usually focused on the person.
Yes, exactly.
It's not usually focused very much on the
animal itself. Yeah, it's about the personality.
Yep.
Yeah. And you know, I mean it's no shocker, and I'm sure you've probably seen this in like your Instagram posts or something. If you post a photo of you holding an animal, it tends to get more attention than if it's just like you taking a photo of the animal in your hand.
Yep.
You know, or the animal itself. And that's not by mistake. You know, the whole aspect of it is like people want to see other people, whatever, being happy or whatever. Like that photo I posted holding that red albino iguana at the Reptarium, like that photo did tremendously well on both Facebook and Instagram compared to some of the other photos I had posted that was like still really good quality photos, but of just the animal, you know? So it's very interesting how all of that works. And, it just makes you start to think and like, okay, well, how can I make sure that the appropriate message or the appropriate information is getting shared, you know, to people, not necessarily to like combat the rest of the craziness on there, but to just be another resource and one that's maybe got a little bit more oomph behind it, you know, in terms of keeping and whatever. these are certainly vital things because I mean, if you think about the generation that's coming up now, which makes me sound really old for even saying that. This generation doesn't know shit. But if you think about this generation now, that literally they can Google everything, they can jump on Facebook and search it on Facebook or Instagram and find a source of whatever it is that interests them. Regardless of whether the information that's there is correct or not, or sound or not, and just be like, oh yeah, man, like I follow so and so, and like that's everything, that to me is probably the sketchiest part of social media, because when, as you were just saying, when we were growing up, coming through it, it was forums and the Reptiles magazine and all that stuff, and like, you couldn't help but see the person's name that did whatever it is you were impressed by, because it was written right there.
Yeah. By them.
By them, and it's like article by so and so, and it's just thinking like early 2000s or whatever, like when the industry was like in its heyday. It was so much easier to find out about certain people because there weren't so many people doing it. The industry was still considered a taboo greatly for the most part. So it wasn't uncommon to go to somebody's table, talk about something, and hear a name like, Dave and Tracy Barker, or, Bill and Kathy Love, or anything like that. But now you never freaking
people be like, a Loveline Okatee.
Yeah, the hell is that?
People love the Okatees. I don't know.
Exactly. VIP? Who is that?
It's like Vida Preciosa International.
Yeah. But it's not VIP.
Yeah, I know. But I feel like a lot of the older people too, like they are on social media, but they don't give as much weight to it. Like they just kind of have fun with it. They like just post casually on there. They don't post a lot of consistency on there because they don't have to. They've kind of proven that they know what they're doing, and they don't have to prove anything to anybody.
Right.
I think that one of the people who I see who's more active on social media would be like Tom Crutchfield. He seems to post a lot. Ron St. Pierre seems to post quite a bit as well. And I'm really interested in a lot of the projects he's got going on.
Oh, hell yeah.
And then like watching all the amazing things that Ty Park is doing with Iguanaland. Like I saw that he's got a rough opening date for Iguanaland, and I'm like, I can buy a ticket right now. I'm just like, I need to plan for this because I need to go to Iguanaland and check it out, because I'm just super excited as watching all the process of building the enclosures, and he's been sharing all along the way on his Facebook.
It's been amazing.
The progress that's been going into this facility. It's been incredible to see all the different things that are going into it, and where his mind is, and just seeing how he's thinking about it and how it's going to be presented to the public. I'm like super excited about that. And that's one of those things where a lot of breeders who are working with particular species or are kind of like top of their game when it comes to a certain type of animal that they work with, they don't want to share that sort of stuff. They kind of keep it low and quiet, and then they share when they've got things available, and that's kind of how they roll. But there are certain people like Ty Park who are like, I want to just share information because I'm passionate about these animals, and I want to get that information out there about his Cyclura or his Cinosura or any of the other the tegus that he was working with, and he just wants to share that with people, and that really shines through, and you can see his love for the animals, regardless of what people think about him or what people think about what he's doing. He's like, I don't care. I'm doing this because I love the animals, and that is just really cool, because you can get a feel for what kind of person someone is from their social media. I mean, granted, social media is going to be your highlight reel, and not as many people are sharing their losses or their failures or their setbacks. More people are going to be sharing just the good stuff. Yeah. But there are some people who are just real, and they just talk about, the challenges that they faced and the things that they may have gone through to get to the point where they have been successful. And I think that's really interesting, and you can kind of get a feel for what kind of breeder someone is before you even buy from them. You can kind of find out what kind of person they are. just through their social media. And, back in the day, it was like, if you saw an ad for Nerd, it was like, oh, that's Nerd, that's Kevin. And that's, that's all you know.
Yeah.
And then now, you can follow Kevin on his Instagram and you can see videos of him, feeding his boas or see what he's excited about this week or what he's doing, and behind the scenes sort of stuff.
Yep.
But back when I was a kid, I didn't fucking know anything about. I was like, okay, Kevin McCurley breeds ball pythons, and he's got blood pythons and reticulated pythons, and lots of other weird stuff.
Yes.
And that's all I knew. Like, that's it. I didn't know anything about him personally. But never before has there been a time where you could learn personally about what someone's like who's interested in the same things that you are.
That's very true.
It's so wild to me to think that, I follow some people who are over in Australia and people who are on the other side of the planet. I'm like, oh man, look at what they're doing today. He's out there feeding his taipans, his brown snakes.
Yeah.
He's got his Woma pythons. And shout out to my boy Chris, But, his scrubs. And it's just so strange to me that we're able to connect on that level to people on the other side of the planet, like literally the other side of the planet.
Yeah,
it's
legit.
so wild to me from a kid who was like, when I was a kid, Kevin was a state away from me, and I still didn't know anything about him.
Yeah.
Like at all when I was a kid. I just saw in Reptiles magazine, oh, he's breeding ball pythons. That's cool. He's got an ad in Reptiles magazine of spider ball python and the morphs that he's making and all this stuff. And back then I never in my wildest dreams would have thought that I'd be working with him. That's just not. It was never even on the radar of a thing that could be a possibility. Just wasn't.
Yeah.
Or any of the things that I've done. I used to go to Gatorland when I was a kid, and I didn't know that Gatorland had social media and stuff until I was older. But from going to Gatorland as a kid and then going and hanging out with Savannah at Gatorland in February and getting to feed a saltwater crocodile and alligators up close and do all this stuff, it's like,
yes.
That never would have happened without social media because I'm just another weird reptile guy. I'm not freaking anybody special. I'm just another guy who geeks out about reptiles. But connecting with those other people who are passionate like we are through social media, you're able to do things that you never would have imagined. I get people who message me and they're like, dude, I just want to come up to Nerd someday and do this and do that and see this one particular animal. And it's so satisfying when they do finally come visit to be like, hey, you wanted to check out some a big scrub python, check this out. And then they put a big scrub python in their hands. And I was just like, yeah, that's the shit. But, without social media, that would never, ever be possible because people walk in downstairs and they're like, I want to see a scrub python. I'm like, get out of here. I don't actually say that. But, it's one thing to build a relationship with people online and then get to meet them in person. And there's another thing. It's it's going someplace and just hoping that something cool can happen,
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, social media certainly offers a lot of potential for growth and networking and, I think, that going to Gatorland is a perfect example. That was literally just the shot in the dark of let's see if we can go, get in there and see if we can meet with Savannah or whatever. And we weren't necessarily expecting the full behind the scenes anything. We were just being like, oh yeah, we'll hang out for a little bit. We'll walk around,
talk about reptiles a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. And then be on our way. And next thing you know, we're jumping in with a friggin' Nile crocodile and a bunch of gators and this, that, and the other thing. And we're like, hot damn.
This has been one of the coolest days of my life.
Yeah, legit. And that wouldn't be possible without social media. I remember when it was the year or so before I came up to Nerd, coming up to do the live streams on Facebook with Kevin, and just the number of people who were jumping on those live streams for just a moment to try to get Kevin's attention or ask Kevin a question that they've been dying to get answered from him. It used to always blow me away, because just to know, man, there's so much credibility that he has. Literally, people all over the world are like, I just need to ask him this one question, and chances are, if you call here, you're not going to talk to Kevin.
No.
If you email us, you might get Kevin.
You're probably gonna talk to me.
But yeah, it's true.
I mean, on the phone, you're probably gonna talk to me. You
Yeah.
might talk to somebody else.
You know, so I mean, for that split second, you know, if he answered a question, it was just like, oh my god, thank you so much, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
You know, I used to always like remember like leaving and just being like, damn, there's a lot of people,
Yeah.
you know, and a lot of questions,
Mhm.
you know. But I certainly think that's one of the coolest things, to be able to connect that way,
Yeah.
you know, with people. And you know, now we do the stuff on Twitch and all that kind of stuff, so we're still able to do that, but we've also become a little bit more, I guess you could say, transparent, from the standpoint of like, you're not just looking at like the cool shit that we're doing at Nerd, but like the people who follow us, you start to get to know us a little bit more, you know. And like, think about like Taylor,
Mhm.
you know, like every time he comes, he's like bringing us drinks
Yeah.
or whatever, you know.
Arizona fruit punch.
And
Oh,
yeah, exactly. And it's like, oh, dude, like you're freaking
You
awesome.
saved my
bro.
day.
Yeah, like legit. It's funny because when
Shout
I saw
out to
him,
Taylor.
I saw him the other day, and he like hands me a Red Bull. I'm like, oh, dude, it's like right in the nick of time. He's like, seems like the last few times I've come, this has been right in the nick of time. I'm like, yep, it is. We have this telepathy.
Very tiring.
Yeah, you know. But yeah, just think about all those, you know, those different connections and what really is possible, you know,
Yeah.
when you start actually like utilizing it to your advantage.
Yeah, it's so weird to me because I've had people message me on Instagram with questions about snakes and stuff, and I'll just like shoot them a message back, and they're like, "I was not expecting you to reply back to me," and I'm like, "What do you mean you weren't expecting me to reply back to you? I'm Rob." Like,
It's what I do.
I'm just hanging out talking reptiles, man. That's what I care about.
No, see, okay, so you want to know what's funny? So I was on Instagram last night, and I was just going through people's stories, whatever, and every once in a while somebody like tags another reptile person. I'll check out their profile to see what they've got. So I clicked on a profile, and it's this dude, but the background of his photo was a place that I recognized, and that was Adam Harris's shop.
Oh yeah,
down in Connecticut. So I liked one of his photos, and I like left a comment. Oh man, like Adam's got some some really cool stuff. Blah blah blah. And he was like, "Whoa." Like, you just commented on one of my things, whatever. Like, dude, you should totally come by the shop sometime. So I was like, man, I'd love to. Shoot me a DM. So I was talking with him for a little while, and he was like, holy crap, dude, like, I can't believe like we're having this conversation, whatever. And I was like, dude, Adam, for me, Adam's like the guy.
Yeah.
Because like, he's the first person that took me seriously when I was like, I want to work with snakes for my life, you know? So I was like telling him that story, and he's like, I never would have known that.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if you didn't tell me that. So, so I think I'm going down there later this month, Monday, to check out his shop, because since he moved, I think last year or something, into a bigger place, I haven't been down to see it. So I kept saying like, man, I gotta go down there. Man, I gotta go down there. So yeah, I'm gonna finish. I'm going down on a Monday. So I'm gonna finish teaching and then just like hit the road and go down and check it out. And because I was like, man, Adam came up here. He was here not that long ago.
True.
You know, I'm like, I think it's time I take the journey down to Connecticut and go hang for a little bit. You know what?
I've never been to his shop.
Oh,
I know.
oh,
I know.
Rob.
I know. It's terrible. I know. Especially where I spent a lot of time in Connecticut as a kid because my mom's family, a lot of her family's in Connecticut. I don't know why I never.
So I'm gonna give you the date.
Yep.
And you're just gonna sneak out of work a little early.
Yeah.
And we're just gonna go.
I'm down.
Yeah.
It'd be like, I'll
It's
let you
far
hold
enough
water
in
monitors.
advance.
Yeah.
It's far enough in advance, so it's cool. But yeah, I think it's a Monday that I'm going down. So his shop is usually closed on Mondays, but they're doing maintenance or whatever. So I was like, I can't get down there till kind of later in the day. But if you want to hang, go out to dinner, you know, whatever. Yeah, man, that'd be so fucking great. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm cooling, I'm chilling.
Yeah,
I'm just like, I want to come hang out with Adam. It's been a while, you know.
Yeah.
But like those are just those instances where like social media, you never know the impact that you'll have, you know, on social media and you know, to be able to tell those those stories. Like, you know, I mean, think about Noah, Marcus. You know, I first met him at Adam's shop, you know, and he knew me from YouTube, from what I was doing on YouTube, you know, so it was, and now, you know, he tries to hijack my Instagram live streams with his rhino iguana from time to time. You know, but just thinking about like all the connections that, you know, social media can make if you utilize it correctly. Yeah, dude. You know, it can be massive.
It's like we went down to Carpet Fest and we met up with Lucas.
Yep.
And I was like, he was super pumped, and I was like, dude, we should fucking talk. Like, let's talk, because if I'm not, you know, I'm not some arrogant piece of shit. Like, if you want to talk, let's talk, dude.
Yeah.
So we hung out for like a little bit the night before Carpet Fest, when everybody was hanging out at the brewery, and then hanging out at the fire, you know, with Carly and everybody, and just shooting shit. And I think that they're trying to plan a trip to come up to check out Nerd, and I'm like, yes, do it. We'll hook that up.
Yep,
we'll show 100%. You what's up, man.
Yeah, so I talk with Lucas and his mom probably every other day at least. We're just randomly chatting about stuff. But I just sent Lucas one of my gopher snakes, because it's an animal that I've had here for a while. Didn't necessarily fit into a project that I've got, and it's not necessarily something I can dump more resources into at the moment. And I was like, man, like, I don't necessarily want to just randomly sell this and let this go. So I hit up Lucas's mom, and I was like, hey, I'm going to ask your permission before I just randomly pack a box and send it. I was like, but, you know, I know Lucas was just checking out Pituophis and kind of geeking about some Pituophis. I was like, do you think you'd be interested in this? You know, and she was like, oh my God, I think you'd freaking love that. Like, blah, blah, blah. How much you ask? I was like, I don't want money.
Yeah.
Just like, I was like, because I remember being that kid that was like all into reptiles. And I remember having that one person to just be like, you know what, here, just take this and enjoy it and have fun with it. You know, and I was like, if I can take this moment to be that person to somebody else, then I'm 100% down for that. And his mom sent me a video of him like opening the box, and like when he opens the bag, he's like, holy shit. And I'm like, that's what it's all about, man. Fuck yeah.
So if you haven't checked him out on Instagram, go check him out. Cobra Keeper Jr.
That's it.
Yep, on Instagram.
That's it. Do it.
Lucas, shout out, man.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, social media has so much potential.
For good and bad.
For good and bad, true. You know, but I mean, if you really like utilize it in the right way, I mean, it can literally change your life. Yeah. You know,
I think that's one of the things that that has always played well for me on my social media, is that social media is kind of whatever you make of it, and I just like to have fun. Like, I don't really give a fuck about other shit, so I literally just try to have fun. So like on my Facebook, I'll post like question of the day, or people can like, I'll just post random anything I'm thinking about. I'm like, I'm just gonna see what people think about that, and that's a lot of fun. Then like on Instagram, I'll do polls and stuff, so you can vote on things and all that sort of stuff. But it just creates that little bit of engagement between you and the people who either follow you or friends with or whatever, and it just kind of builds those bonds over time. And, I've had a lot of people come up to me at expos, and they're like, I don't ever like comment on your questions of the day, but I like reading them because it's interesting to see what people say.
Yeah.
And they're like, that's just something I enjoy about your social media, because a lot of people, all they post about is drama and politics and bullshit and lots of crap. And there's not a lot of places where you can go on social media where it's like low drama, low crap, like just have fun and just enjoy the connections that you're making. And I try and keep my social media kind of to that, because I cannot be stressed out about stuff. I can't do it.
Yeah, no.
Can't do it. Well, I won't do it. I have a tough time around election time, but I'm trying to keep it fun.
Yep. Dude, that's what you got to do.
Yeah.
That's honestly what you got to do. I've, before coming to Nerd, I was teaching and gigging full time. So my social media was basically like an open book.
Yeah.
You could find me basically anywhere. None of my profiles were locked down or privatized or anything like that. So people could find me pretty easily and whatever, which I'm totally cool with. You know, and even more so now, like I have everything open, whatever. And it was when I was like trying to push records when I was first putting out albums as a band leader, like I realized very quickly that the engagement that you get on social media is literally everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, being able to interact with people in general, you know, but also realizing that, you know, when it comes to the growth aspect of it, the context of the comments generally doesn't matter.
Mm.
You know, so like essentially what I'm saying is just don't take it too damn serious.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like if you were looking algorithmically, all they're going to look at is, okay, you made a post. What's the number of engagements on that post? Doesn't matter what the context is. It doesn't matter if somebody's like, you suck, you're a piece of crap, or I love you, you're the greatest person ever. It's a comment.
Yep.
You know, and likes and reactions mean very little.
Yep.
You know, so I think once you kind of get to that point where you can realize like, hey man, you know, I'm trying to keep in touch with people, but at the end of the day, like the people, for me personally, the people who I want to be able to get in contact with, they've got my number. I've got their number. You know what I mean? It's very, very simple to do, you know, to get in contact with me. But, you know, so social media, just lighten up. You know,
For
just
reals,
like
though.
don't take it that seriously. It's not the end of the world. Your CNN or Fox News clip that was originally 15 minutes that Facebook cut down to 90 seconds, I guarantee you, is not totally accurate. So, you know, just don't stress, man. Just don't stress about it. Just ride the wave and have a good time, man. That's all it's. Listen, hey, guy, I'm just telling you, you just gotta relax. That's it. A really great example on YouTube on I think Will Nace's latest video is like, you know, got the key, over 5,000 animals in Brian Barczyk's building, whatever.
Yep.
And somebody commented because, you know, Will talks about how, you know, Brian's obviously got the Reptarian, but he still has BHB. Most of the stuff in BHB is kept in racks and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, you know, there's no problem with that. You know, it's literally how the industry was basically designed, you know, but whatever. So this person who's also commented on multiple other videos that Will has posted regarding Barczyk and the Reptarian was like, what do you mean? That's not cruel, being kept in shoe boxes and blah, blah, blah. It's neglectful and blah. I can't believe you're condoning this and blah, blah. And I just kind of like watched the shit show comments just kind of underneath it. And like Will didn't respond, but I commented and was just like, keep it moving, Mark. Like whatever. So like Will texted me last night, it like with a bunch of hysterical laughing faces and was like, keep it moving. You know, because I'm just like, man, if this was 10 years ago, I would have annihilated that guy. You know, but I'm just kind of like, dude, just shut up.
Yeah.
You know, like you don't know the context, you don't know the people. Like,
you gotta be upset about something. Everybody's got to be upset about something.
Of course. I was just upset that Mark couldn't let it go. So keep it moving, Mark.
Oh, no.
I don't care, man. Just keep it moving, dude. Nobody gives a shit about your 2 cents. You don't know Barczyk. Go away. Just go away. Just keep it moving.
Keep it moving. That's the new Reptile Talk shirt that's going to come out.
There
so
you go.
say,
Reptile Talk. Keep it moving.
Keep it moving, yeah. I like that.
I'm down with that.
I'd get a sticker that said that.
Yeah.
Reptile Talk, keep it moving.
Keep it moving. Hell yeah, dude. That might be the new
the
slogan.
next sticker, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we're rounding down.
Winding down the time.
Before we talk about our own social media,
yeah,
Reptile Talk has a new cool thing
that's going to be going on. Yeah, we're going to be working on an OnlyFans account. For real, it's not going to be nudes of me and Jeremy. Sorry. Calm yourself. Calm yourself. I'm down.
I love Rob, but it's not the vibe.
Yeah. Reptile Talk. OnlyFans.com/Reptile Talk. And we're going to be posting some behind the scenes stuff. We're going to be posting some additional pictures from some of our guests. We're going to be sharing a little bit of what goes on behind the mic, and that sort of stuff. It'll also help keep the show moving, keeping it moving, and maybe if we start doing some trips to visit people and do that sort of stuff, it can help keep some of that stuff running. And we're trying to figure out something where I can send you guys some wristbands, because if you follow me, you'll know that I've got some pretty cool Creeping It Real wristbands that say Reptile Keeper on one side and Creeping It Real on the other. And I've got also the black and white ones that say Education Nation and Reptile Keeper on the other side. So I can figure out a way to send you some wristbands. And we also have Reptile Talk stickers and that sort of stuff. So check it out. We'd appreciate it if you would subscribe, and you'll get some extra cool content. We're going to be working on putting up some more behind-the-scenes stuff of what we're working with in our own collection that we might not share on our regular social media, and just kind of keeping it just to the Reptile Talk fam,
Yep, that's it, dude.
So, Jeremy, people want to find out more stuff about you that they're not going to see on our OnlyFans, the regular stuff that the peasants get to see.
Gen Pop.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can certainly find me on Facebook and Instagram, Brassman Reptiles, Twitter at BrassmanRep, Patreon, Brassman Reptiles, YouTube, Brassman Reptiles, and I think that's it. How about you, Rob?
If people want to find out what I'm doing, check out my Instagram. It's at Rob is Creeping It Real, because I'm always creeping it real. And then Twitter, Rob is Creeping, because I'm creepy. And don't add me on Facebook.
There you go. You'll be in purgatory forever.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, guys. That wraps up.
We'll see you next time.
Yes, sir.